I'm mad as hell because things need to be changed. Had the system stepped up and put that bond a little higher due to the vicious crime that he did to the girlfriend, the mother, and the stepfather, along with the girlfriend, 99% of the chance they probably would still be here today.
Cost my sister her life, and that hurts. There's nothing that can bring my sister back. There's nothing that somebody can say, no apology that's going to bring my sister back. That hurts.
She was a beautiful woman with a beautiful soul, very courageous, very outgoing.
And loved by family and friends.
The turnout itself made me emotional. My sister, just to see that she was this well loved and liked, and it just means a whole lot to me. There's many people coming out.
They prayed together.
Amen.
And cried together. It's a pain this family doesn't want others to have to go through.
And I want all of y'all young folks to know abuse is not love.
Some people are afraid of being judged and everything, but your loved ones, they're not going to judge you. You know, we're here to help. Everyone's here to help. Everyone wish they could have helped my sister.
Let's go!
3 weapons were laid out at the bottom of a staircase before anyone got hurt. A gasoline can, a pair of garden shears, an extension cord, a belt, a drill, a circular saw. Not used yet, just ready. The woman he pulled down those stairs survived that night. 9 days after he made bail, she didn't survive the second one. Neither did his mother, neither did his stepfather. And weeks before any of it, a woman he barely knew was already dead in a vacant lot on Detroit's East Side. 1 man, 4 bodies. A court system that had every piece of information it needed to stop this and didn't. This is the case of Jonathan Welch. It starts just before 3 a.m, June 4th, 2022, on a quiet street on Detroit's East Side. A man inside his house heard a woman scream, then a gunshot, then nothing. He looked out his window and saw a car parked across the street, trunk open, engine running. He didn't see a struggle. He didn't see a body. What he saw was a man walk back to that car, close the trunk, and drive off. He called 911. Nobody came. The next afternoon, he went looking himself. He found her in the lot across the street, half hidden in the brush. When Detroit police arrived, there was no ID on her, no phone, nothing to say who she was. It took an autopsy and a set of distinctive tattoos to put a name to her. Natalya Morse, 24, known to friends as Sparkles. She hadn't been shot. She'd been beaten to death. Her family didn't see this coming. No enemies, no warning signs, nothing that explained why anyone would want her dead. Investigators didn't have much to go on either, just a grainy phone video of a car and a victim with no obvious reason to have been targeted. So they did what you'd expect. They pulled her phone records. And what they found was a woman who, after losing her job earlier that year, had quietly started seeing men for money. Something she'd kept from almost everyone in her life, including her own family. It gave investigators a long list of men to work through. One by one, they got cleared. DNA didn't match. Alibis held up. One man even passed a polygraph. Then they got to the last name on the list, Jonathan Welch, 23. Welch didn't have a record going back years. He had one going back 2 days. On June 2nd, 2 nights before Natalya died, his girlfriend, the mother of his 1-year-old son, called police on him. She told them he woke her up in the middle of the night, dragged her out of bed and down the stairs, where he'd already set out a gas can, garden shears, an extension cord, a drill, a circular saw. Somebody had tried calling her phone. He didn't know the passcode. That, apparently, was reason enough. She got out hours later and called for help. By the time officers showed up, Welch was gone. He was charged with assault and torture. He just wasn't anywhere to be found. While they looked for him, detectives also started watching his house for a different reason entirely. His name had come up in the Natalya Morse case. 2 people showed up at the address and tried to get inside, his mother, Flossie Bray, and his stepfather, Robert Bray Jr. Police stopped their car. Flossie was carrying a registered handgun, which got taken in for the moment, and she got brought in for questioning. She didn't give them much. She said she didn't know where her son was. She said she didn't know what was going on between him and the mother of his grandson. She said she tried to stay out of it. Maybe she meant it. Maybe she didn't know how bad it had gotten. Either way, she walked out of that interview no closer to giving anyone an answer. Welch was picked up that same day, June 10th, booked on the torture and assault charges, the only ones that existed on paper yet. His arm and chest still showed half-healed scratches. A swab was taken from his cheek to test against what they'd collected from Natalya's case. That result would take weeks. In the meantime, bond was set at $10,000 for a man accused of dragging a woman out of bed and laying out tools to hurt her with. That's the number a court landed on. His mother covered it. He walked out with an ankle monitor and a court order to stay at his parents' house in Harper Woods. And the woman he'd just been charged with torturing, the one with a restraining order against him, she brought their son to see him there anyway. That decision would cost her more than anyone in that family understood at the time. July 10th. A little over 2 weeks since Welch made bail. He was supposed to be staying put at his parents' house in Harper Woods, ankle monitor on, court order in place. Instead, the woman he was charged with torturing had come back into that house with their son, restraining order or not. By that afternoon, she was on the phone with 911 from inside one of the bedrooms. "I'm being held hostage." She said her boyfriend was trying to kill her. She said she couldn't leave the room. Then there were screams. Then the line went dead. 2 minutes later, a second call came in. Not from inside the house, but from a neighbor. A woman had collapsed in their doorway. A knife was still in her back. It was Flossie Bray. Police arrived to a street that didn't make sense yet. Flossie could barely speak. She couldn't tell them which house she'd come from. The neighbors who'd seen her stumble in only knew her in passing. They didn't know where she lived either. For several minutes, officers had a stabbing victim and no crime scene. They had to walk a neighbor over, ask her to look at Flossie's face, and have her physically point at the house. Green one, right there. By the time they confirmed the address, they already knew Welch's stepfather was inside. He'd been arrested the night before on drug charges after a car accident, so they had his name on file. Now they were learning his girlfriend and son were in there too. As officers moved into position around the house, they saw smoke. A fire had been set toward the back near the kitchen. Then someone spotted movement in the backyard. A child, alone, no adult with him. An officer went and pulled him out. The boy was fine. Nobody, in that moment, had any idea what he'd just been pulled out of. Minutes later, while officers were still working out who else might be inside, gunfire came from the house. 4 or 5 shots, aimed out toward the street, hitting a home behind the officer's position. The Wayne County Special Response Team was called in. Firefighters held back, unable to approach with shots still being fired. For the next several hours, the house sat there, smoke rising, flames flaring and dying down, gunfire breaking out at random intervals, while officers tried to figure out who was shooting and who, if anyone, was still alive inside. It went on for roughly 7 hours. Just before dusk, the front door opened. Jonathan Welch stepped out in his boxer shorts, hands raised. Officers had no idea, at that point, whether he was the shooter or another victim who'd managed to get out. So they walked him through it slowly. Get down, crawl, keep coming, hands where we can see them. While he complied with all of it, calm enough to ask for confirmation he wasn't about to get shot himself. Once he was in custody, he told them his stepfather was the one with the gun. Asked who else was in the house, he gave a one-word answer for each: his girlfriend, his father. Asked if there were more kids inside, he said no. His son was already out. He was taken straight to the hospital for smoke inhalation. He wasn't badly hurt. The special response team finally moved in once the gunfire stopped. They broke the windows, flooded the inside to kill the fire, and forced the front door. Just past the threshold was the mother of his son. Severe head trauma. She hadn't survived. Near the side entrance, where the fire had burned hottest, they found his stepfather, struck with something heavy and stabbed. He was gone too. Flossie was still alive when paramedics reached her, but only barely. She was put on life support. Days later, she died from her injuries, meaning Welch's own mother didn't survive what happened in that house either. Investigators recovered the gun that had been fired at officers from inside. It was Flossie's, the same registered handgun police had briefly taken from her a month earlier, during questioning about her son's whereabouts. They also found clothing sitting on top of the stove and concluded the fire had been set on purpose, likely to destroy evidence. Whatever Welch had been doing in that house before officers arrived, burning it down afterward, wasn't an accident. It was a plan. Just not a very good one. There were officers watching the flames start and stop for hours in plain view the entire time. 3 days later, once he was released from the hospital, Welch sat down with Harper Woods detectives and finally explained what he said had happened inside that house. It did not go well for him. When detectives finally got Welch's version of events, it didn't match anything they'd seen walking into that house. According to him, the whole thing was a family argument that got out of hand. His stepfather and mother were fighting over the car accident and drug charges from the night before. That, somehow, turned into a physical fight between his mother and his girlfriend over his own assault case. He said he stepped out of the shower, tried to break it up, and ended up in a struggle with his stepfather, who, in his telling, had a gun in one hand and a hammer in the other. The gun, he said, didn't fire, so his stepfather hit him with the hammer instead. They fell. He hit back. Then he crawled away through smoke he couldn't explain, toward a fire he had no memory of starting. It was a story that accounted for every weapon at the scene without explaining how any of them actually got used the way the evidence said they did. He'd also, at the start of the interview, mentioned in passing that he'd just gotten out of the shower, a detail that became a lot less casual once investigators noted he looked freshly washed when he walked out of a burning house. Detectives didn't need to argue with him about it for long. The knife pulled from his mother's back, the gun fired at police, the hammer, the lighters. Every item recovered from that house came back with his DNA on it. All of it, not his stepfather's, his. He was charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder. Then, on August 2nd, a second set of results came back. The DNA swab taken from him weeks earlier, tested against samples from the Ford Focus and from Natalya Morse herself. It matched. A 4th murder charge was filed, this time for a woman whose case had started the entire investigation that eventually led police to his door. On top of all of it, he was also charged with attempted murder for firing his mother's gun directly at the officers outside. On November 1st, 2023, Jonathan Welch pleaded guilty. He was sentenced to 45 to 70 years for 3 counts of second-degree murder, plus another 20 to 40 years for a 4th. 4 lives, 1 plea deal. He'll get credit for time already served, which, given everything, is about the only break he caught in this entire case. In court, the families of the people he killed were given the chance to speak directly to him. He sat through most of it without much reaction. One sister asked him outright whether he even had a soul, then asked if he understood what he'd done, that he hadn't just killed strangers, he'd killed his own mother. Another family member, the mother of his last victim, said she'd spent years trying to keep him away from her daughter, only to watch her let him back in. She said it took him 39 days from the moment he was allowed back into her life to be the reason she was gone. His girlfriend's sister put it more simply, describing what he'd put her through inside that house before any of this reached its end, held for hours, abused, finally running out the door with nothing on, looking for any house that wasn't his. How do you let somebody out that did that to somebody? The question wasn't really for him. It was for the system that handed him a $10,000 bond 9 days before he had the chance to finish what he'd started. Her family didn't hold back on that point either. Asked plainly if he deserved that bond, given everything on record about him at the time, their answer was no, and not a close no. The kind of no that comes from watching someone walk free with a documented history of violence. only to find out what that freedom cost 3 more people. What's left now is mostly the aftermath. A 1-year-old boy who lost his mother, his grandmother, and his great-grandfather figure in the same house on the same day and doesn't yet understand why. A family raising money to support him going forward because nobody else is going to, and a string of women, Natalya Morse, his girlfriend, his own mother, whose deaths all trace back to a series of decisions that, individually, might have seemed reasonable at the time. A bond amount, a restraining order nobody enforced, a man released with an ankle monitor, and a promise to behave. None of those decisions, on their own, look like murder waiting to happen. Put together, they were exactly that. Jonathan Welch is the reason 4 people are dead, but the case against him is also, quietly, a case against how easy it was to miss, what he was capable of, right up until it was far too late to stop him.
The community comes together tonight to honor a mother murdered this week in Harper Woods. Police say that 22-year-old mother died during a violent rampage on July 10th. Her boyfriend is the accused killer, and he was out on bond for trying to kill her just days before. Tonight, many people gathered in Warren to remember her. Megan Woods joins us live from Lincoln High School. And Megan, I know you spoke to family members who are also calling for justice.
They are about 100 family and friends met here at Lincoln High School, where Zlayiah attended just a few years ago and graduated. And tonight they were all wearing purple, her favorite color, and reflecting on the life that she was just beginning.
She didn't have to die. The system failed her.
22-year-old Zlayiah Frazier's mother is in tears as she faces what led to her daughter's murder. Zlayiah's boyfriend, 23-year-old Jonathan Welch, is accused of killing her and his stepfather Sunday in a violent rampage. Jonathan was out on a $10,000 bond for torturing and trying to kill Zlayiah. Her family is now frustrated with the 36th District Court magistrate, Dawn White, who set the bond.
Her mistake cost my sister her life, and that hurts. There's nothing that could bring my sister back. There's nothing that somebody can say, no apology that's going to bring my sister back. That hurts.
She was a beautiful woman with a beautiful soul, very courageous, very outgoing.
And loved by family and friends.
The turnout itself made me emotional. My sister, just to see that she was this well loved and liked, and it just means a whole lot to me. There's many people coming out.
They prayed together.
Amen.
And cried together. It's a pain this family doesn't want others to have to go through.
And I want all of y'all young folks to know abuse is not love.
Some people are afraid of being judged and everything, but your loved ones, they're not going to judge you. You know, we're here to help. Everyone's here to help. Everyone wish they could have helped my sister.
Zlayiah and Jonathan had a 1-year-old son together, and now her family is raising money to better support him as well as bury Zlayiah. If you want to donate, we'll have that information on clickondetroit.com. Live in Warren, I'm Megan Woods, Local 4.